is introduction of the orator, Dr. B.V.R. Mohan Reddy, Padma Shri Awardee. Dr. B.V.R. Mohan Reddy is born to late Sri Nagireddy Garu and mother Venkat Subbaratna Kumari Garu. And Dr. B.V.R. Mohan Reddy is an Indian entrepreneur who has formally placed India on the global map for leading edge engineering and research and development, that is ER&D services. Dr. Mohan Reddy founded Cyient, formerly Infotech Enterprises, listed on BSE and NSE, that is Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange, in the year 1991, with the vision of providing engineering services to global markets. He is also credited with pioneering the computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing culture in India, introducing computer systems for the design and manufacture application as far back as 1982. His efforts have led Cyient to contribute more than 3 billion in cumulative exports from India to Fortune 100 companies such as Airbus, Boeing, Pratt & Whitney, Philips, and Caterpillar, and have created direct employment for about 15,000 engineering professionals in 47 locations across 21 countries. As Executive Chairman, B.R. Mohan Reddy focuses on long-term future of the company. He is involved in leadership, development, innovation, and corporate social responsibility. Dr. Mohan Reddy believes in giving back to the society, and through Cyient Foundation, he has conceptualized and enamored numerous social initiatives and ensured that 2% of Cyient's profits are spent on social initiatives. Through its Adopt a School initiative, Cyient Foundation has adopted 25 government schools and is educating 15,000 plus underprivileged children in 6 locations in 4 states in India. Through Adopt Village initiative, Cyient Foundation has adopted a village in Prakasam district of Andhra Pradesh and developed it under the Smart Village, Smart Ward program, and now the village is one of the top 20 smart villages in AP, received Swachh Sarvekshan Award from state government. Dr. Reddy has taken up several leadership positions to promote higher education in India. He is currently the chairman of the Board of Governors of IIT Hyderabad, a member on the board of the National Skill Development Corporation NSDC, and a member of Court Governors of Administrative Staff College of India ASCII. Dr. Reddy has served as the chairman of NASSCOM, National Association of Software and Services Companies in India during 2015-16. He has served the chairman of Confederation of Indian Industry CAI Southern Region during 2008 and 9, and is currently the co-chair of CAI's Education Council. Dr. Reddy is also the founding director of T-Hub, the largest startup incubator center in India. Dr. Reddy acts as the Honorary Counsel of Federal Republic of Germany for the states Cyient.com and Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and also serves on the board of Coromandel International Limited. Dr. Reddy received India's 4th highest civilian award, the Padma Shri, in 2017 for his contribution to trade and industry in the country. He is the recipient of the Distinguished Leadership Award of the American Society of the Mechanical Engineers, CIE Division, in 2011. He is Distinguished Alumnus of IIT Kanpur and Management Association in 2015. He recently received the B.L. Maheshwari Lifetime Achievement Award, constituted by the Center for Organization Development, for being an outstanding institution builder. Dr. Reddy holds postgraduate degrees, MTech in Mechanical Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Kanpur, and the Master of Science, Industrial and Operational Engineering from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, USA. He is the recipient of honorary doctorates from JNTU Hyderabad, Andhra University, KL University, and JNTU Kakinada. He is married to Ms. Madam Sucharita has a son and a daughter. And this is the time for me to request Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu to deliver the oration. Sir, please.
Nirmal Chand, many dignitaries of the dais, faculty, staff, my dear young friends, a very good morning to all of you. I deem it an honor and a pleasure to come and deliver this oration lecture in memory of Sri Valluripalli Venkatarama Seshadri Rao Garu. I read about him, I heard about him, I watched the AV about him, and I am honestly so impressed that I'd like all of you to join your hands to acknowledge the great contribution he made. India has a major challenge. 70% of India's population is in rural areas. Only 30% of them are urban India. But most of the industry too thereafter is in urban India as opposed to being in rural India. So we cannot afford to leave behind the 70% of the people who are in rural India not to become the mainstream of India and also contribute to this great nation. Secondly, what we also find is that in rural India, what we find is people who, given the historic reasons, are not the most affluent people. They come from extremely different and challenging backgrounds. So it was imperative on the state, which is basically what I mean by state is government, to make sure the balanced growth comes in. But occasionally the governments falter. So then it becomes responsibility of the society. That's people around us. And society also falters. Then comes a leader who has passion, a leader who has vision, a leader who has dream, a leader who thinks he'll bring about change. To me, that was what Mr. Seshadri Rao Garu was. A man who had a dream, who had a passion, who had a commitment. And he then made sure that rest of his family continued with his dream. And how does that come in? Is primarily people also develop something called values. Mr. Seshadri Rao Garu felt that, look, this is a mission just not for him, it had to continue for generations. So what I see now with his 3 sons and his son-in-law is also equally amazing. I met them only in the recent past, Dr. Nageswara Rao Garu, Sri Sachinananda Rao Garu, Mr. Ramakrishna Garu and Mr. Srinivas Rao Garu, all 4 of them. Irrespective of the leader being there or not, people continue because he made sure that they had the same values. To me, values then determine your behavior. Behavior becomes the culture. Culture of a team, culture of a family, culture of a society. So now join the hands to congratulate the family for continuing the traditions left behind by the father. Congratulations, Nageswara. I was quite thrilled to come to Gudlawalleru. You asked me 5 years back, I would have said, there's no chance for me to come. I used to travel, I continue to travel extensively. People get surprised that I spend about 100 room nights out of my office. Right? In those days when I used to have the role of being the CEO of the company, it used to be abroad. But nowadays I spend most of my time in New Delhi trying to help the government on a number of critical issues, and especially this area of education. But the reason I came here today, not just because I had time with me, I made time for you, only to come and meet all of you. If I made that small difference to your lives in sharing a few thoughts with you, then it was worthwhile for me to take this time off for a day. I left early this morning and I'll go back early tomorrow morning. So therefore, the key reason which drove me to Gudlawalleru today is all you. So listen to me, think about what I talk, and if makes sense, please implement them. So I know most of you will be graduating very soon. I also know there is a fairly large number of faculty members here in the group here. And so therefore I need to be careful about my remarks because it applies to some of them to my student friends, some of them to my faculty friends. Just give me for 1 minute, I need to keep track of my time. What I'm going to do is that as you people graduate and you start looking at your own story of life, you start giving shape to your own dreams. Some of you will become entrepreneurs like me. Some of you will join government jobs. Some of you will take this very admirable profession of becoming teachers. Some of you will do many other things in life. I'm not going to tell you what you should be doing. What I'm only going to tell you is, as you start becoming your own, the life is going to be different. Life is changing quite rapidly. Life is so rapidly changing that humankind has never experienced so far. So what I captioned my talk for you this morning as a part of this oration lecture is culture of excellence for new technology world. We live in a world which is completely different, and I will paint that world for you. I could have probably done a little better job with slides with me, but I was told that typically it's my office instructions to me, oration lectures don't run with slides. So where is the world that I see at this point of time? We think there are 5 forces at work. I'm going to take a quiz with all of you. So therefore, please be carefully listening to me. I'm not threatening you, but this will be interesting. I promise you. The first and the foremost force that we are seeing happening at this juncture is that after several hundred years, the center of gravity of the universe is shifting to east. After around Industrial Revolution, which is around the later part of 18th century, the center of gravity of the economic world moved the west. It was United Kingdom, it's United States, it's still there. But what we see now, the transition that happens to the east. That's good news for all of us. The second one that we see as a major shift that's happening is the aging of population. Especially so, again in the West. People are aging very rapidly. No denying the healthcare is also advancing very, very rapidly. But I'm not getting to that model. I can go on for a while if I get into healthcare and human beings. But what we are seeing is certainly the nations like India have tremendous amount of advantage because of people like you. We have young population. A population which is today at the average age is 26 years. Population, no nation has this. This can be an advantage for us, not for just tomorrow, not for the after tomorrow. It can be for a number of decades. We think we'll have this for next 30 to 50 years. So demographic dividend is an advantage for us, but this is a big shift that's occurring. A third one is that we're seeing the world becoming very integrated. People talk about globalization 4.0, but if the 3.0 is still existing as 4.0 comes in. Globalization started again post-Second World War. You saw a lot of changes after the Russian bloc disappeared, disintegrated. It imploded on its own weight. People did not find it sufficiently good enough. And that's how people decided that the socialistic pattern would not work in this world. And so therefore, people embarked on this globalization. So that force is still working because, as my good friend Nicholas Negroponte from MIT Media Lab says, that the physical demarcation between countries now is like lines etched in sand. Even a strong breeze can move those lines. There's no physical demarcation left behind. I'll contradict myself in my fourth force. But all the same, you are also seeing today return of geopolitics. I'm sure you read about Donald Trump. Donald Trump thinks that, look, everything has to be here in the United States. We understand those parts too. Primarily what our belief is, as research is proving at this point of time, post-2008 economic meltdown around the world, the recovery that came to nations was not even. Recovery that came into existing nations also was not even. I'm sure you must have even heard about this, that the rich is becoming richer, the poor is becoming poorer. So that's the reason why countries are saying we have to make sure that our people are taken care of and not allow the globalization to be free doors and windows so that people can come and go as they like. That's a force that you have to reckon with. Can you ignore that? We can't ignore it. So therefore, those manifestations of that are issues like, we talked about Trump, but Brexit on the other side, or the yellow jackets in Paris at this point of time, are changes. But here the fifth force, which makes all the difference to us, is a big shift on account of technology. Technology is its best at this point of time, and there is an enormous amount of disruption that's happening because of technology. So have people read something called the Human Social Development Index? Anybody familiar with this word called Human Social Development Index? Any hands up? Please put your hand up if you know the answer. I really appreciate help. No. So what is HDI? Is the ability of mankind to have control of the physical and the environment around them. So that is basically to say that, physical and intellectual environment around them. The control that people can exercise. And there's a fairly large research that's done. So people went back into history and started saying, let's look at what are the major events that happen in the world. Which is the best events that have happened in the world which changed mankind. So you look at it, I believe the biggest one that people write is around 12,000 BC. Domestication of animals started. That is the biggest event of mankind. The first time we started making sure dogs became pet animals. Horses became the next pet animals. The ox became the next domesticated animal. Trust me, it took 6,000 years for this phenomena to happen, between 14,000 BC to all the way to 8,000 BC. Once the ox became domesticated, they invented plow. They tied the plow to the ox, then became agriculture. The man became independent. He never had to now hunt. He didn't become proactive. He didn't become reactive. I'm feeling hungry, so I need to go and hunt for my food. As opposed to that, he was saying, no, in the season I farm, I get enough of food products, I store them, that takes care of my hunger. The whole concept of livelihood changed. Or if you look at about 600 years to 800 years before Christ, there are a number of philosophers who came in, changed the thinking power of humankind. Whether it's Gautam Buddha, or it was Socrates, or Copernicus, all of them changed our way of thinking. So if you go back into history, you can go on with this. I'm not going to take a history class for you. But here is the next thing that I want to do, is that as these events happened, people started plotting how did this human social development index behave. They plotted, the human social development index versus population on both y-axis. On the x-axis was all about time frame. You'll see from 12,000 BC till 250 years back, it's absolutely flat. There was no big change. HDI was just about as population was growing, HDI is growing, that's all. It's almost running parallel to the x-axis. But then, 250 years back, something radically different happened when the HDI started going in the exponential way. And what was that? The invention of one simple thing called steam. STEAM. That's where human beings started saying, we can now store energy. And steam started becoming pervasive. It started helping human beings in a number of ways. It started saying that, look, you can build mills, steam mills as they were called, primarily to bring water up. Steam engines came into existence. Electricity came into existence. And then you had from electricity, it was all pervasive. Everywhere you found new devices that came in. That was what is documented in history as a first industrial revolution. Right? So the second industrial revolution was all about making sure we have mass production. It is attributed largely to this gentleman called Henry Ford, who actually started an assembly line called T-assembly line. Primarily otherwise, if you realize what assembly line is that before assembly line came in, everybody bought all parts. Suppose you want to put a car together, and then at one place they sat down and put everything together, so productivity levels were very poor. Whereas in assembly line, there's now, specialization, skills were divided, parts started moving, productivity went up, cost came down, accessibility increased dramatically. That was the second industrial revolution. That was sometime in the early part of or later part of the 19th century, 1870 or so. We waited for another 70, 80 years, or probably going closer to the 100 years, when the third industrial revolution happened. And that was called as ICT, Information Computer Technologies. First time people started feeling there is something which would help you with your cognitive abilities. So if you look at now, the first two industrial revolutions, it helped human beings only with their physical abilities. Car helped you go faster from point A to point B. Electricity made sure you had a comfort of life. It did help your cognitive abilities. Computers started coming in. It started helping your brain. If I ask this question 16 times, how much is it? 16 times 16. Very good, thank you. So, but people did not tell me. They have seen in audiences, people say, where's the calculator now? So that is the price that we paid for the computer which came and started helping our cognitive abilities. But that's a few small downside to it. So this cognitive abilities helping to computers came into being somewhere around, say, 1960s, 1970s, depending upon where it was. That was branded as the third industrial revolution. But what we see now is what we call it as the fourth industrial revolution, or the Germans called it as the Industry 4.0. What's the difference now is that we're now saying, no, we can have the physical and the cognitive abilities talking to each other, literally working together. Take the example, I'm sure all of you would be familiar, of a connected car, a driverless car. We'll go to connected cars later, we'll look at the driverless cars. Look at the driverless cars, what is it doing for you? It is detecting an obstacle. Human being is not detecting it. It's then giving instructions to the car to brake, right? And as the obstacle moves off, it accelerates on its own. So it is actually seeing the physical world of obstacles, but cognitively, it is creating an environment for both of them to meet and take the right decisions. So where are we at this point of time? We move away from a situation of just being physically in a world of productivity to a world where we have cyber physical systems which are working in tandem with each other. Flawlessly, they're working together at this point of time. So that is the new world that we live in. And this world that we live in, the Industry 4.0, the fourth world, doesn't seem to be slowing down. Some people tell me that mankind has never experienced this amount of change so far. But mankind could experience much better things to come. So in some ways we should all think that we are very fortunate to be born at times when things are so good. But we could say, well, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are going to see a lot more good things to happen. That is how technology is changing. So why do people think that the technology is changing so rapidly? What are the forces at work? Earlier somebody was talking to me, questioning me, saying that, Education 4.0, is it tied up to Industry 4.0? But I will tell you more about Industry 4.0 with 4 forces which are at work. So how many of you are electronics or computer science graduates in this group in front of me? I believe there are other people outside. Can you put up your hands? Computer science? No hesitation, it should not be like this, it should be like this. Why it should be somewhere in between? I'm half computer science? No. Very good, thank you. So tell me now, what is Moore's law? Please be brave, stand up, speak loud. I saw some hands up there too. It doesn't mean only from here people should talk. So there's some people amusing themselves at the back, talking to each other. So can you stand up and tell me rather than your neighbor that you know Moore's law? No? No. If you're a faculty member, the answer is no. I'll give you a chance after I go with the students. Sorry. My apologies, I have bad throat. Yes, somebody has an answer there? You think you know what Moore's law is? No murmuring. You have to stand up, bravely tell me what Moore's law is. Yes, please. What's your name? Speak loud. Pujita. Yes, please.
The number of components will be doubled for every 12 months or 24 months in an IC chip.
What else did you say?
In the fabrication of IC chip, the number of components will be increased.
So let's give a round of applause to Pujita. Very good. Good job, Pujita. Please sit down. Thank you. 1974. That's when Gordon Moore said that, on a chip, the number of components that can be put on it will double every 24 months. That's what he said. Which in effect means that, with the power of power of components being there, to double the components, the power of the chip will become double itself every 24 months. The size of the chip will become half every 24 months because you're putting two times the number of chips as the previous period. And the third one is, you also said the cost will become half. That is how Gordon Moore became. Sir, am I right? Yeah, thank you. So, we didn't give you the chance, I apologize, but we thought we'll probably have fun with the students. So therefore, Gordon Moore said that the power of computing will double itself every 24 months. The size of computers will become half. And the cost will also become half. In 1994, 20 years later, people said, let's go and revisit Gordon Moore's law. And they found him to be wrong. Why? Because it wasn't taking 24 months, it was taking only 18 months for this phenomenon to happen. People then forecasted this will slow down. It doesn't seem to slow down at all. What we think is it continues to grow at the same pace. Computing power is growing. Associated with the computing power, we should now bring in one more facet called storage. Storage also is becoming cheaper, becoming larger, and it's becoming faster. I went to IIT Kanpur way back in 1972. I went to IIT Kanpur at a point of time when Kanpur had the best computer center in this country. There was nothing to compete with them. They had an IBM machine called the IBM 7044. So what did it do? It did, at that point of time, we were as many as 7,000 students on the campus. All the computing requirement of 7,000 students, one computer used to take care of it. So what was the size of the computer? It used to occupy this room, right? And then the marvel of it further was that I used to amuse myself telling the story to a number of people, and I'll tell you too, is that there used to be a huge water fountain in front of the computer center. And the water used to be dancing up and down. To me, it used to be extremely fascinating to watch this water going up and down, going to the computer center, give your card there, get your output. I used to say, oh my God, it's not just computers, look at the marvel of architecture. But what was the function of the water fountain? Cooling, thank you. So the whole water fountain, which is 10 times the size of this room, used to be cooling the computer with water, to the water coolant system that was available. Though I said there are 7,000 students who used to use this computer, what was the power of this computer? It was as good as this. What many of you have with you in your hand, in your wallet, in your pocket, in your bag. That is how this transformation has occurred over a period of time. To give you a flavor further, there used to be, I don't know, some of you, my elderly friends in the front row could recall this. A computer called the Cray 2. Cray was a computing system that was there. Cray 2 was a model that it was. And Cray 2 in 2008 was being sold for $25 million. But it did not have the same features as what the iPhone has. So people keep saying Cray machine was blind, it was deaf, it was dumb, and sold for $25 million with the same power as what this machine had. I'm just giving you this example to say, to relate to how things have changed. Let me move on to the second force. The second force is all about connectivity. I belong to a generation where you'd be so surprised at this point of time, it was not too far away into history, all right. We waited for 8 years to 10 years to get a telephone line. I'm sure, please go and ask your grandmother or grandfather, they'll tell you the same story. It took 8 years to get a telephone line. How many of you have phones, 2 phones with you right now? Be brave, put up your hand. Thank you, sir. There's 2 hands in the front. And the Srinivas Ragharu had 2 phones. I saw that also. So, Nagesha Ragharu also has 2 phones. So look at this. From a situation that we were waiting to get a phone for as many as 8 years to 10 years, we now have 2 phones with us. But here's the beauty of it. Once you have the phone, what are you doing? You are connecting and communicating. So, if you look at the theory is that the power of a network is square of the nodes that are there. So if there are 2 people in the network, it's 2 square. 10 people, it's 10 square. So how many people are there on the network now? People take guesses. Not guesses, it should be facts. How many people are there on the network in the world today? How many people can you reach using your mobile in the world? If God gave you a gift saying that call all the people in the world that are there on the network, how many people can you call? I can now allow the faculty also to tell me the answer. Speak louder. How many of them? I heard some number, I thought.
Approximately 400 crores.
Approximately 400 crores. That's equal to 4 billion. Fairly close. I believe the number is about 5.2 billion right now. There 7.2 billion people are there in on the universe currently. Out of the 7.2 billion, about 5.2 billion people are connected. But here is the secret. The secret is that it's just not human beings which are connected. There are things which are being connected now. And how many of those things are being connected? There are 15 billion things which are connected on the same network. That is when you start saying, I can send a message to control the temperature of my refrigerator. I can ask as I drive into as I'm driving now, actually now the sensors, we'll come to that in a minute, the car door opens, the front door of your premises opens and the garage door opens, all that happens. Those are all things. But now, you look at the beauty of the thing, is now 20 billion people and things are on the same network. So what's the power of the network? 20 billion square. That's the power that you see. And this network further, what you see is improving tremendously. It's not the same as what it was in the past. We saw in our lives, how do you connect 2 computers? It was called RS-232C jacks. Then people said, big breakthrough in technology is there something called Ethernet. 2 megabits per second. It was hardwired. Actually, there was a yellow thick cable which had to run from one machine to the other machine. We used to daisy chain them, as they're called. But now, sit anywhere, I can get 200 megabits per second. So the power of the network in terms of just not numbers, but also in terms of with the 5G coming in, you'll probably find more of 2G of information that can go on for every second. That's the second force which is working for what's happening with this technology revolution that all of you experience. A third one is very interesting further. A third one is called the sensors. So how many senses do human beings have? Very good, thank you. I'm going to clap for all of you, because several people said 5, though not too loudly. How many senses do computers have? Yes, ma'am? You said some number? Same 5 they have? No senses with computers? No, that's not true. Computers are mastering the whole thing called senses right now. So how do they do it is this ubiquitous, ugly looking, tiny devices. They used to be huge at one point of time. They become very tiny. They can sense everything and anything. My favorite example is my wife is a borderline diabetic. And she told me, this is almost getting about a year, little over a year back. We've seen lots of technology changes thereafter. I'll tell you a little bit. She told me one day that she went to the doctor, and the doctor told her that there's a new wearable device that has come. And he'll put that wearable on her if she came back next morning. So as busy as I am, or as absent-minded as I am, or as irresponsible husband as I am, I said, go get it done. But somewhere at the bottom of my heart, something was telling me rest of the day, next morning, saying that no, I wasn't fair. This lady has lived with me for 45 plus years. She said she's going to get some new device done on her. I should have essentially gone to, I was very curious actually. So evening I go back to home. She's in perfect shape. So I ask her saying, where is your new wearable? She said, it's on me. I said, where? She said, you can find where it is. Where is it? Like, most of women here, the South Indian women, she also wears a tight blouse. So it's below the blouse. How big is it? It's 2 millimeters by 4 millimeters. And all the electronics is in the size of a 1 rupee coin. And it is just plastered up. It's a sub-plant, so therefore the device goes inside, electronics on the top, it's right there, on the shoulder. So you can't even see when on top of the blouse. Even in a tight blouse, I couldn't see that there was something sticking up there. That thin it is. What does it do as a function? For 15 continuous days, it can monitor blood sugar levels at 15-minute intervals. What's the underlying technology? It's all to do with photogrammetry. It's all to do with optics. There's actually camera built into it. The camera is taking the picture, understanding the color of your blood. The color of the blood then is being processed to say, what is the sugar level in your blood? That's what it does. And what's the size? I showed you what it was. And now you look at it thereafter, the doctor told her that, every day, you got to write down on a piece of paper what you ate and what you did, lifestyle and food habit. And honestly, and then he plotted back when she went back after 15 days. They removed it, showed her exactly how her sugar levels were. You plot on top of it your food habits and your lifestyle. You get marvelous results. She actually has gone out of medication thereafter. Because she now knows if she eats wheat, how does the sugar behave? If she exercises, how it goes down. Eats a small piece of dessert in the evening, how does the sugar levels go up? So look at the marvels of technology and look at the size that has come to. What is it sensing at this point of time? Blood sugar level, photogrammetry application. But then, we think at this point of time, the 5 senses are almost there with computers. The sense of visualization has become unbeatable. Actually, there are evidence at this point of time that a patient who is likely to suffer from tuberculosis, if you look at like an X-ray, the computer can detect tuberculosis 1 year ahead of a normal eye. So what a doctor, a radiologist sees as a X-ray that's taken out, he can't detect it. Whereas given the computing power that's there and image processing that we can do, the computer will detect saying that 1 year from now, they can see a small little lesion somewhere in the corner, which can't be detected by a normal human eye. So vision is perfected. Then we are looking at the second one is feel. God gave us touch. And where is it? Almost perfected. You can see flow. I can measure flow right now. I can measure heat. I can measure vibration. Vibration can be seen. And actually, you can measure, everything that's got a feel for it. And third one, which is very interesting, is sound. We hear, right? So therefore, we now have sensors which can hear and tell you what's happening around you. This is not, I'm not talking about fiction, please don't mistake me, this is absolute reality. So what are they doing in terms of hearing? What is the parallel that we have? I don't know if I'm sure some of my elderly friends in the front row will tell me that we had a problem of pumping water to the overhead tank. Put on the motor, water was still not going. And there was some funny sound the motor was making. So you went and called the motor mechanic, saying that, water is not there in my tank. So the motor mechanic would come and press the button, hear the sound, and just make one statement. साहब, इसका bearing गया हुआ है. इसका bearing replace करना है. All he did in 5 minutes. What did he do? Can you now relate to it? What did the motor mechanic do? He heard the sound. That sound got processed in his brain with his past history that was there, which says this noise means the bearing is gone. Can you now put this back into a computer and think about, cannot the computer do the same? It can do many more. It can do so much. Right now, I have a company in Israel, one of the investors I am. It's called 3D Signals. If you want, you can go and Google on it. It's an amazing company. This guy has hearing sensors. What is it? Actually, if you look at, again, the marvels of technology today, you change the product so quickly. You have to put in new conveyor belts every 3 months. Samsung comes with a new phone, for instance. It can't be on the same old conveyor belt. They put in a new belt for it. So new stations that will come in. But on top of that, even the belt stops for 1 minute, you're done. You suffer a loss of $1 million. Only, I believe, in one factory of Frankfurt, they told me, if a conveyor belt stops for 1 minute, the loss is $1 million. So what does our friend do? He throws these sensors on the floor, and all of them are hearing the bearing noises. Because if you look at conveyor belts, there's so many bearings, because there's rollers, and every roller has the end 2 bearings with it. So there's amazing results that we are seeing out of it. So the third phenomena is called sensors. But these sensors, before I move to the fourth, which is connected to this one, have yet another amazing characteristic with it. What's that characteristic it has? People want to take guesses. What else do sensors do? They're detecting a lot of things. They're detecting by doing what? They're detecting a lot of things. By doing what? They are bringing in oceans of data. How does the computer now say bearing gaya hua hai? It's basically because it had data with it. So these sensors are putting not just kilobytes of data, not gigabytes of data, not teraflops of data. They're putting petabytes of data, hexabytes of data, sexabytes of data, and so on and so forth. That's where the numbers are going up. We have an application called Engine Health Monitoring System. That's an application which is run by our company. We run this on aircraft engines flying at 30,000 to 40,000 feet. They're all jigged with sensors. On a 10-hour long-haul flight, as it's called, on a single-aisle aircraft, which means there are basically 2 engines. When it becomes double aisle, it'll have 4 engines. On a single aisle aircraft, which is 2-engine aircraft, we put 1 petabyte of data on a 10-hour flight. And that is knowledge thereafter. It's ocean of data. So that gives a segue into the 4th one. So this data, what do you do with it? You then write algorithms on top of them. Algorithms to make meaning out of them. Algorithms not to extract information from them. Algorithms to write to make decisions for you. And the decisions which will be in real time. So what are computers doing for you at this point of time is that with this data, they're helping you in terms of taking real-time decisions. In many instances, they take themselves. They don't even need your intervention. 3 years back, 3 years now, last summer of 2016, I believe, my wife and I went for a holiday. And we were driving back from Salzburg back into Vienna. And we had this little luxury of having a chauffeur and a nice car. And he drove back, it was 100 kilometers. He exactly took 100 minutes and dropped us off at our front door of our hotel. So, and it was an extremely comfortable ride. Unlike the ride Srinivas Rao Garu and I had this morning, courtesy, many other things I'm sure. But the key thing, my wife was profusely thanking the driver. How wonderful job he did. So I didn't want to speak in front of the driver, but after the driver left, I was telling her, it's not the driver. What made the difference was technology. The car had obstacle control. So look at our human being, how you react to an obstacle control. You find something coming, human being react, you brake, right? You brake to a level till you almost get to that place. Because human mind says, so long as I don't hit that obstacle, I'm fine. So you go up to that level. And the obstacle moves. Immediately what do? You press the pedal. So that's when you say sudden brake and sudden take off again. Whereas when the computer controls that, it doesn't happen that way. It's a smooth slowdown. It calculates constantly. The computers are going crazy at that point of time. Constantly calculating, if I'm going to hit this obstacle. So that's when it starts braking. Obstacle moves up, doesn't say, no, let's go. No, it doesn't. It again starts in calibrating, so I need to accelerate to say 100 kilometers per hour. At 100 kmph, how do I accelerate there? Without giving discomfort to the passenger. Or there's something called lane control. I'm sure it's true in many other places. We came from Gannavaram to Gudluvalleru this morning. Something is coming, so the driver will move from one lane to the next lane. He comes back here all the time. So that's not a great comfort for the passenger. You have this ability called lane control now in cars, the high-end cars. It just sticks to the lane, period. And there's so many other features that are coming in at this point. This is all because what is the car doing right now? It is taking decisions for us. So these are 4 accelerators. So what are the 4? Can somebody repeat them for me? Nobody wants to repeat it for me. Pooja, you want?
I know someone.
Speak up. Mic nearer to your
Components.
components. Computers.
Connecting.
Sorry.
Connecting.
No. Connectivity. Sensors.
Data.
Algorithms. Data came from sensors. Algorithms came by. Thank you. Thank you very much. So therefore, these are the 4 accelerators that we have. All these are working in isolation. They work together at this point of time, and they amplify themselves. How many of you use Ola? Very good. So how do you pay the Ola driver? Cash? So actually, maybe, given some of the challenges we have in this country, a lot of people pay through cash. But then, if you look at the actual usage of Uber around the world, 95% of their transactions are all payment transactions through gateways. So look at these 2 technologies, therefore. Uber, which is actually a platform, an aggregator of taxis and users, on taxis on one side, users on the other side. But this would not have worked if we would not have a payment gateway. So therefore, a financial technology called payment gateway came into existence because of Uber. And without Uber, Paytm would not have existed. Without Paytm, Uber would not have existed. So these are called the amplifiers at this point of time. There are accelerators and then the amplifiers. Globalization is yet another amplifier. Because in the past, we used to live in isolation. We used to live all by ourselves. In the sense that, I used to run a computer company in 1982, a computer system integration company, OMC Computers. By the time, once the hardware arrived in Mumbai port, it used to take me anywhere between 3 months to 6 months to get them out of the customs area. That's the time it took us. So how much I was lagging behind in terms of technology is just, this is one data point. So therefore, with the globalization that's happening at this point of time, we see that there is more amount of amplification that happens. So all this is leading into absolutely new technologies that are there. I have to be careful about my time. I'm at 45 minutes, 1 hour, I need to close. So therefore, what is this heading towards? Is that these are creating new digital technologies. We did a lot of research in this in the recent past, especially as a part of my role that I have at NSDC and also in NASSCOM. And these 8 technologies are, one is IoT, Internet of Things. The second one is, can you name some of these new digital technologies? Big data, okay. Big data would more go into the Internet of Things because IoT is putting all the big data for you. Cloud. Cloud is a part of, more general purpose stuff.
Artificial intelligence.
Sorry?
Artificial intelligence.
Very good. Artificial intelligence. What else? Augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, bioinformatics. What else? Nanotechnology, mechanical engineers. Mechanical engineers, put your hands up. So what's new technologies which is making waves in mechanical engineering? Robotics. 3D printing, very good. Whoever said that, let's give a round of applause. Majors, put it on the big screen for all of us, you smile at it, all that was happening. But what's more serious application that's happening? We fly drones for agriculture now. There's an application with us called precision agriculture. The original intent of flying these drones on a farm was primarily to assess the use of pesticide, whether we can reduce the use of pesticide. I should be very honest and transparent. It was amazing even to people like us as to what we learned from those images that were coming in. We were just wanting to see where the pest was. That was the original intent. We wanted to know where the pest was, and then we'll send one more drone to follow it with pesticide to just spray on those areas. That's how we could save the pesticide. That was the whole intent. Usage of pesticide could come down dramatically. But what we found was 34 different parameters of the crop were coming out of the images. We knew exactly what's the humidity level, where there was stress on a particular piece of crop, and as a result, where watering was required more. Where is the pest? What is the pest? What would be the best pesticide for this pest? When will this crop come for harvesting? What will be the harvesting pattern? Are there any other interventions that are required today? What's the technology behind? It is drone. There are high precision cameras that go with it. Therefore, there is image processing that happens. And what is finally happening? What's the third technology? AI. There's artificial intelligence, which is determining exactly what the pesticide, which will be the best for that particular pest, which is seen on the farm. So therefore, you look at this technologies, there are different technologies which are going to one particular sector. We have a company which was in US, we just sold it. And what is it doing is, it's called bedside health monitoring system. An ICU bed today in United States costs you $100,000 with all the equipment around it. Using IoT devices at this juncture, they reduced it to a number called $10,000 per bed. It was such a fascinating application, the Japanese gave us 5x for what we invested and bought that company. Actually, it was a family office investment that we did. So what's the technology there? They were all sensors that were there. Sensors put out data. Big data was the key thing. Cloud was where the data was preserved. And the best was, there was AI again doing predictive analytics. It is not just predicting, saying that is a patient suffering from a heart attack right now. It can even tell you if the patient continues with the same dietary habits and also the same physical exercise, when he or she is likely to suffer a heart attack. So you look at medical field. So then you come back, I talked about agriculture. Let me get you to education now. So what is that this technology is doing right now is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on all of us, saying that we are dated. I wake up every morning, find new technologies, new things I need to learn. Is it just me to learn, for all of you to learn? All of us to learn, right? We all have to learn these new technologies. That's the challenge that we have. So therefore, what we did was, this industry, I also represent the industry, therefore, this IT industry today employs 4 million people, 40 lakh people. Our estimate right now is 60% of this 40 lakh people or 4 million people require reskilling. So we put together a platform called the Future Skills. It's a joint platform that we're doing with a company from America. It's called Edcast, it's the company, I can tell you the name. It's an amazing platform. Back again, my famous 8 technologies. 8 technologies will lead into about 55 new job roles. These 55 new job roles will require 155 new skills that are required. Great. You can say, Mr. Reddy, this is a platform. What's great about it? The greatness about it is, if you and I still want to learn about 3D printing, but the pace at which you learn could be different from the pace at which I learn. So the type of quantum of material that comes to you is different from the material that comes to me. Depending upon how I am responding back to the questions, I am responding back to the classes. The material is different to me compared to you. Who is doing that? No human being is sitting in the back and trying to correct your questions and answers and trying to find out what it is. It's an AI engine which does that for us. So that's the power of technology in every facet of our life. It is not confined to any single area at this point of time. So what does this mean to all of you? It means to all of you, on one side, it's extremely challenging environment, right? We never thought, life is going to be so difficult. But life is going to be very difficult, I'll tell you, on a positive and a negative note. If you go back, I believe, into history, in the last 200 years, the average lifespan of a human being has gone up by 30 years. That's what it is. So research is making sure, it used to be 35 years used to be the average lifespan of human beings at the end of 18th century. By beginning of 21st century, we're all about, average is now at 75 years. And research tells us it's not too far away that we will all become, average will become 100 years for all of us. Good news, bad news, I don't know, but the news is that. But here is somewhat of a bad news further. We'll all live for 100 years, all right. But when you live 100 years, when you lived the so-called government of Andhra Pradesh retired people at 55 years, they said, no, we'll push it to 58 years. With a lot amount of pushing, it's coming 60 years now. They said, no more of anybody older than 60 years. They're old people, they can't come anymore. Now you think about it, they'll become 100 years. But when 60 years were there, one more thing was happening. You get 1 degree, good enough. Right? You got a BTech degree. You say, no, I know everything about engineering. But the world is different. It's not that any longer the same. So our prediction is when the age becomes 100 years, you probably will have to have 6 different professions in your lifetime. You doctor for some 20, 30 years. You could be an engineering doctor for another 20, 30 years. So how does that happen? It doesn't happen just like that. You got to put that effort. You got to skill yourselves. So therefore, I think what is the challenge that we have is in this new environment, while we have this big incentive saying that the world is changing, world is so different, world is extremely interesting, it also poses back some challenges to you. So here are the 5 simple things that I want to tell you as my conclusion today. The first one is that you have to develop spirit of inquiry. Please forget about this rote method of by-hearting stuff and then vomiting it back into an exam. Fill up those books and books of information to say this is what I did. It might help you to get the grade. I'm requesting your leadership, I'm requesting your faculty, all of them, saying that our students have to be different from others. We have to get the ability to think. If you don't think, then you're not doing a great job in the environment, you're not making use of the opportunities that you have. Look at this device. Why did this happen this way? I'll be very honest with you. 15 years back, somebody asked me, this is basically one way of calling it, it's called convergence of technologies. And I said, no, it won't happen. I was wrong, I'll be honest with you. But how did it happen? Because Steve Jobs took all the chances to say he was curious. He was all the time inquiring, why can't I put together everything? And what does this machine have now? 18 discrete products packed into one, right? How did it come in? Because he constantly said, why wouldn't it work? He went to DuPont. DuPont produces glass for this. DuPont CEO told him that it's not possible to produce this glass, unbreakable stuff at such a cost that he was asking for. And he challenged them that I'll buy $3 billion, I'll write a purchase order for you. They said it will work then, because the volume was there. But the fact of life is that unless